Monday I put up the question, does youth resistance training stunt growth? And it was a bit rhetorical. Most of you put no. But despite that, I would say that one more common objection I get from parents is that they're worried that resistance training will stunt growth in their kids. And I fully understand their worries. However, I think we have to kind of take a deeper dive of what's going on here and why really it's completely unwarranted. What parents are referring to is the epiphyseal plate. The epiphyseal plates are located at the ends of our long bones. So if we take my femur, right, on each end of the femur are going to be epiphyseal plates. And these are really what help our muscles grow in length. And the epiphyseal plates naturally close as we age. At what age do they naturally close? Roughly around 18 years of age, depending on the person, depending on the sex. Now, the question is, if we resistance train, will they close early? And really, these claims are completely unwarranted and unfounded in the literature. You know, I did some homework on this, like where did this myth come from? Because it's very pervasive in our society. And I have three sources that I could sort of piece together. One, there was a 1970s report in Chinese laborers that youth Chinese laborers tended to be smaller. And because of that, you should not, resistance train. So that was one thing. I did notice something that there was some sort of governmental report that showed injuries in the youth regarding exercise equipment. It didn't say how the injuries took place. It said nothing about growth whatsoever. And because of that, the recommendations are that youth should not resistance train. And when we say youth, I'm talking, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years of age. And then I have seen one case study of one person in which they were resistance training and they were injured and it caused the epiphyseal plate to close. So that is all of the evidence I can actually find regarding where this myth took place. And then if you look at the evidence of how many resistance training studies we have out there with kids, which is probably thousands on tens, hundreds of thousands of kids, and I can find and locate one case study on one child in which there was epiphyseal plate damage from resistance training, I think you can start to paint the picture that it is completely unfounded. And that not only will children not be stunted in growth by resistance training, but in fact they should resistance train, maybe even to grow. We know that there's a paper that I'll link here, but we know that the epiphyseal plates are actually very responsive to loading, meaning that when we apply a load to the epiphyseal plates, that they are more likely to be active and grow even more. Now, I'm not saying if you resistance train, you're going to grow to be 6'5", but I think, you combine that with the opportunity cost of not having a 10-year-old resistance train. What are we doing here? And then I'm going to make my final point. My final point is the opposite end of the spectrum. We're talking about youth. Well, as we get older, what's a problem with our bone health? Well, that's osteoporosis, which is very low bone mineral density. And who seems to be at risk for osteoporosis the most? Obviously the elderly, but in particular women. Our greatest defense against osteoporosis is not just resistance training in our 40s and 50s. Our greatest defense against osteoporosis is resistance training at a young age when our body is most responsive to resistance training to increase our bone mineral density as much as possible at 15, 20, 25. So yes, in a very long-winded answer, as a child, 10, 12, 14 years old, 7 years old, you can start resistance training, and you probably should.